And at this time, I am delighted to introduce our next plenary speaker. Erin Incoherent Cookman has been playing music since she was a junior in high school. She's released 3 full albums and recorded over 60 songs and toured across the country. Her music highlights her experiences living with borderline personality disorder. Erin will share her story with us, and she will also do a live presentation of some of her music. And now I introduce you to Erin.
Good morning, everyone. It's morning where I'm at. I'm in Colorado. And a huge thank you to Paula and Emotions Matter for having me on this fest. It is really a dream come true for me. Speaking about having BPD is really meaningful work to me, and I'm really touched to have been asked. Thank you for having me on. Before I begin, I do want to let people know who are watching this that I could be talking about stuff that could potentially be triggering to you, depending on where you're at in your journey and in your healing. If at any time what I'm talking about becomes too distressing for you, please log off. I want to help heal, not hurt. So with that being said, I'm going to jump right in. Ever since I was a little girl, I've had BPD, or I've been experiencing symptoms of BPD. When I was I think it was like 7 to 9 years old, I went on a vacation to Hawaii. When I came back from seeing my family, I cried for a month straight, just every day, sadness, so much sadness. My emotions have always been very pronounced and hard to control. They fluctuate very rapidly. And again, it was like all of me felt the emotion at the time. So if I'm angry, I'm completely angry. If I'm sad, I'm completely sad. And this kind of the weight, the pressure of this amount of emotion consistently led me to start self-mutilating when I was in 4th grade. I was pulling out my hair. By 6th grade, I was cutting myself. By 8th grade, I was burning myself as well. By the end of high school, I was drinking a pint a day. By my early 20s, I was getting into harder drugs, meth and heroin. And when I was in junior high school, I began splitting as well. And I didn't know what splitting was. I didn't have the terminology for this for almost a decade. I would just feel compelled I would go nonverbal. I wouldn't be able to look at somebody. And this was one of my best friends. It was completely random. They hadn't do anything to provoke it. I would just show up and be unable to look at them or talk to them or interact with them at all. Sometimes these emotional states could last a day, a few hours. Sometimes it could be upwards of a week. It always fluctuated. It always depended. And it was always embarrassing. It was isolating. In junior high, I also started dating people, and pretty consistently from junior high till I was about 24 years old, I was just going from abusive relationship to abusive relationship to abusive relationship to abusive relationship. I wasn't really spending the time to get to know myself, to put self-respect into it. I was just really reacting to this mental disorder that I didn't know I had. When I was 15 and in junior high, I got diagnosed with depression. My parents found out that I was self-mutilating, and so I started therapy. I was able to go for 6 weeks through the work insurance that my parents' employer had, and the doctor diagnosed me, as I said, with depression and prescribed me medication for the first time. I don't remember what the name of the medication was, but it only lasted for 2 weeks before I flushed them down the toilet. I had a huge disassociation spell downtown. After I'd taken the medication, I didn't know who my friends were. I didn't know who I was or where we were, or why we were going there, and I ended up in a fit of hysterics, and it scared me. So I flushed the medication, and then I just kind of managed with substance abuse and self-mutilation and, feelings of being suicidal for a lot of years. In junior high as well, I also started playing guitar. Now, before this, I had always written lyrics or been singing, but when I began playing guitar, I was able to write my own songs, and that really began my music career. And always the song content or the lyrical content was about my feelings of rejection, my feelings of betrayal, my feelings of being at ends with friends or family. I was writing about my experience having BPD before even being accurately diagnosed. It wasn't until I was 22 years old, I was reading an article online about a serial killer. And the serial killer, I can't remember their name, but they had borderline personality disorder. So I clicked on the link to get context about what that meant to this person's life, and I was shocked. I was reading about me for the first time. You know, there was the splitting, there was the term for that, there was the disassociation I'd experienced with the medication, there was the stormy interpersonal relationships, the self-mutilation, the shifting sense of self. It was all there. I felt relieved and heartbroken. I felt like this confirmed I was broken and my brain didn't work properly. This assigned me all the blame for everything wrong that had happened in my life. It was my fault because I had BPD. And within a month and a half of getting the diagnosis, I had gotten on medication again. I figured at that time it'd been 6 or 7 years since the last time I tried it. And now that I had a new diagnosis, I was ready to give it the old college try. And again, the medication did not work well with me. And I'm not advocating against medication. I think that medication has tremendous therapeutic benefits. I do believe that there are people who medication does not work for. And given my experiences with them, I believe I'm one of those people. This last time I tried Prozac and Zoloft, I had sweats, chills, brittle nails, loss of appetite, insomnia, diarrhea. I had panic attacks that lasted all day long, just unmanageable. I was kind of just spiraling. I was going out of my mind. I was trying to help, and suddenly I felt even more broken than before. Felt like the medication couldn't even fix me. And so by the end of 6 weeks, I was in the hospital. I had attempted to cut my arm open. I got 27 stitches, and then I moved to Philadelphia after that. I wanted a new life. I wanted fresh faces. I wanted a new opportunity to not have all of the things I'd done I was ashamed of feel like they were still in the same neighborhood as me. So I moved to Philadelphia and began having the conversation with myself of how am I going to show up differently mentally? How am I going to change my life? In order to do that, to have this conversation of accountability, I had to see where I was impeding my own growth, how I was standing in my own way. And when I recognized those things, to not destroy myself because of them. I began noticing that every little step I would make, it took more agency away from this kind of rejection identity that I had created to keep myself safe while I'd been living my whole life up to that point. So now that I was beginning to talk with myself, Erin, how can we think more positively about these things? I would hear the rejection side say, well, you're just so stupid. You can't think anything right. Well, you know, just trying to weigh me down. And then when I give those thoughts agency, it made it easier for me to keep drinking. It made it easier for me to fall into my depression. So in order for me to access my own change, I had to see how am I going to talk to my mind so that I'm being nurturing and encouraging to myself. And this is work, like Amanda had mentioned, this is work that transforms over time. This was not something that was immediate. This was years ago for me when I moved to Philadelphia. And I started showing up for myself and exercising. I started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and then Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. I started booking shows like 70 in a year just to really hit the ground running, get my music out there. I started becoming a vocal advocate for mental health, for substance abuse, for suicidality. I started doing outreach with a harm reduction group called Operation in My Backyard. We distribute harm reduction supplies to at-risk communities living in Kensington, Philadelphia, which is currently experiencing the nation's worst opioid crisis. When I would play fundraising events for them, I would begin talking about my own experiences doing drugs, using substance, because for me, so many of the people in this community are also marginalized, they're also mentally ill, and they're also coping. So what I really started to see when I became more of a vocal advocate for mental health, for suicidality, for substance abuse, was that when we dismantle the stigma, when we are able to lean in and have tough conversations like this, there is healing that occurs. It's like music, the way it resonates with you, the melody, something takes you, something about it helps heal. And that's always been the thing at the forefront of my healing journey, is how can I bring the goodness that I want, the goodness that I have sought and fostered within me, how can I share that with community? Last year, I started living in a studio in New Jersey called House of Robot. I got the opportunity to make an album for free, and I asked the guy if I could live at his house because, you know, I'm like, well, let's really do it. If we're really going to do this, let's make the album. Let's see what it takes. And so that resulted in me living in New Jersey for about a year by myself in the woods, and I started trading transcendental meditation. And to date, exercise and transcendental meditation have made daily management of BPD actually feasible for me. This is something I recommend if you don't have access to resources like therapy, like medication, or if you've tried things like that and you still aren't finding the right fit. Again, this isn't an overnight fix. This is a practice. I show up every day. I wake up, work out, I meditate, dog, think about what I'm grateful for, trying to just get my mind in the right place. And for a long time, it can feel unrewarding. And then you have the days where you're about to go into an episode and you can suddenly walk yourself away from it immediately, because that's now the new reflex. And that in and of itself is its own reward. That can't be given to you through a pill. That can't be achieved from somebody else's validity. For me, the experience of healing has meant loving myself for who I am. I still have borderline personality disorder. Last month, I felt like killing myself. This doesn't go away. This is something that is hard to live with, but totally manageable. And I can say that now. I'm very happy to say that now. So the song that I want to play for y'all today is a song that I recorded in Wrightstown, New Jersey last year. This was released on my November 30th, 2020 album called Deja Vu. And this album's available online everywhere. If you search Erin Incoherent, you can find my music wherever you stream. We have several music videos and stuff out. And with all of my music, as I'd mentioned, it really is this vehicle for me to express my experiences in my life. And having BPD, it's hard to write about my life without that being having an influence in some regard. But The Edge of September is the song I want to play for you today. And this song is kind of when I started to see the scales in my life tip from being very negative to being, you know, able to get it to a positive point. This was the first time I was really writing about, I can see the hope on the horizon, and the hope looks like me. It doesn't look like other people who have finally accepted me. The hope looks like the woman I want to be, believing in me, showing up continuously, telling me that you can still do this. You don't have an option, but sometimes you need that, to be pushed up against the wall a little bit, to have the ends or the odds feel like they're against you. I think you're never gonna get through a life where everything comes to you easy, so it's best to learn to smile through the storm. So the song is called The Edge of September. My name is Erin Incoherent, and it has been my profound pleasure to talk with you today for the first BPD Fest. Check, check. Hopefully you can hear me. Oof. Bring that camera down a bit. Get some guitar action in there. All right. I'm pinning my hope on the edge of September, praying the payoff is not too far away. I'm trying to focus and change for the better. Breakdowns, lost breakthroughs, I'm reminded each day I feel today on arrival. It's a byproduct of all of this being bottled up in this pain. It's recycled by my heart's symphony, save the last dance from misery. There must be somewhere else we start to be, instead of in my head, in my chest. They're torturing me. Yeah, I'm sick to death, sick to death. I'm just trying to be happy. Yeah, I'm the life of the party. I'm telling myself that I can't on the bad days, and someday I'll look back when things make more sense. I'll see myself then through the tears and the heartache.
reach out to grab my own heart. The two hands can smoke is clearing. Or maybe the wind has just changed directions. Either way, it's leaving. Cause you can't wait forever, but you can't wait through the night. There must be somewhere else these thoughts could be, instead of in my head, in my chest. Cause they're torturing me. Yeah, I'm sick to death. I'm just trying to be happy. Yeah, I'm the light that fire. Oh, I tell the truth, there's no reason, cause everyone's heaving. No one feels better. No, nobody's safe. Cause if you see what I've seen with emotions like tsunamis, you change your perspective before you can cover it. You know, you better act fast. Because your youth was lost, now it's far in the past. So I'm paying my hope on the edge of September. I'm praying the payoff's not far away. I'm trying to focus and change for the better. Breakdowns, fall breakthroughs, I'm each day. So if nobody hears me, my soul will still echo if there isn't time in a place where everything's dancing. Day casts the shadow to remind us we're part of the night.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Erin Incoherent, and I'm going to give it back over to Paula.
Thank you so much, Erin, for sharing your music and your story with us. Wow. My phone is starting to get alerts from social media from people that are saying, just heard Erin and Amanda speak at BPD Fest. So wherever you are today, be sure to post your comments about us on social media, and be sure to continue to fund our very important work by making a donation to Emotions Matter, because we want to continue to bring you amazing stories, amazing recovery stories that are flipping the script and telling the truth to be able to help others on the journey.